In the dark depths of our planet lie natural labyrinths that fascinate and terrify. Today, I'm going to tell you two chilling stories of caving that turned into absolute nightmares. These true stories will make you realize just how much the Earth can become our worst enemy. Imagine being stuck in a passage so narrow that every breath becomes a struggle.
Imagine the panic when you realize your body refuses to move.
That's exactly what happened to our protagonists. On December 27, 2003, a group of 8 teenagers accompanied by 2 instructors were on their way to the Boy Scouts cave in Florida. Among them were Michael Shiro, 15, and Javik Henderson, 16, 2 young adventurers determined to prove their courage. Their adult chaperones made a fatal decision: to stay outside. Their weight, they claimed, would prevent them from navigating the narrow passages. It was an excuse that would prove very costly. The cave had a deceptive reputation for safety. Its stable structures masked a deadly trap, passages so narrow that every step forward was torture. Armed with only 9 flashlights, the boys began their descent around noon, unaware that they were crossing the threshold of an underground hell. At 67 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature created a false sense of comfort. Meanwhile, the instructors lit a campfire. This seemingly innocuous gesture would take a sinister turn.
Michael and Henderson led the group in oppressive silence.
The deeper they went, the more the darkness seemed to crush them. The narrow passages made them increasingly claustrophobic, turning every meter into a psychological ordeal. After an hour of exploration, they reached the most formidable section, the hairpin turn. This passage formed a terrifying bottleneck, a horizontal crack barely wide enough for one person to crawl through. The passage curved nearly 180 degrees, creating a terrifying blind spot.
The rugged limestone walls closed in all sides.
The uneven ground, littered with debris, made progress difficult. The low ceiling forced them to contort their bodies into unnatural positions. Michael went first, followed by Henderson. Henderson had to twist his body to negotiate the sharp turn. Suddenly, the unthinkable happened. Henderson froze, unable to move forward or backward. His breathing quickened as the terrifying reality hit him. He was completely stuck. Michael crawled backward to help him, the sharp limestone walls scraping their skin as they struggled. The silence was replaced by panicked breathing and muffled cries. The confined space sucked their energy, turning every movement into torture. Henderson's body, twisted in impossible angles, was so firmly wedged that the sharp edges dug into his ribs, sending flashes of excruciating pain through him. His bent limbs exerted relentless pressure, making him feel as if the cave was crushing him alive. Despite the mild temperature, their bodies were rapidly losing heat due to their immobility and contact with the icy limestone. Suddenly, the worst happened. Michael's vision blurred. Without warning, he collapsed, his body slumping against the walls. Panic overwhelmed Henderson when he realized his friend had lost consciousness. Trapped and unable to move, he could only shout for help. The other boys were thrown into chaos, their lamps flickering as the batteries weakened. Some panicked, convinced that the fire was consuming the oxygen. They decided to get out immediately. Realizing they couldn't free their friends on their own, they made the heartbreaking decision to abandon them and call for help. The instructors immediately extinguished the fire, their faces pale. Within an hour, rescue teams arrived. These experienced cavers found the group huddled together, their faces streaked with tears. Assessments revealed that oxygen levels were not compromised. The panic had created an imaginary threat. The air was perfectly breathable, but Michael and Henderson were still in mortal danger. Rescuers entered the cave with specialized tools. When they reached the bend, the scene was horrific. Henderson was shaking, his skin pale and clammy.
Michael est inconscient.
Hypothermia was setting in despite the mild temperature. They used chisels to widen the passage, each blow echoing ominously. It took over an hour to free Henderson, who let out a sob of relief. After nearly 2 hours of effort, they freed Michael, his body cold to the touch. When they emerged, the 2 boys were rushed to the hospital. They were alive, but severely hypothermic. It took Michael a full day to regain consciousness. But that story is nothing compared to what followed. On February 11, 1988, a bitter cold swept through the woods of Tennessee as Alan England and his companions prepared for a caving expedition to Weatherly Well. The entrance presented a terrifying challenge, a crack only 9 inches wide leading to a 4-foot drop. England, 63 years old but the smallest in the group, volunteered to venture inside. He began to contort his body, his ribs compressing in the confined space. Every inch of descent was a battle against the unforgiving rock. His clothes clung to the damp walls, quickly becoming soaked. What gravity had made simple was becoming insurmountable. When England attempted to climb back up, the crack became a prison. He wriggled and pulled, but his soaked clothes clinging to his skin made every movement laborious. His companions tried to help by pulling on the rope, but each tug seemed to push him further down. The expedition turned into a nightmare as his strength waned. The freezing temperatures and cold winter air turned his situation into a battle against hypothermia. England was shaking uncontrollably, the narrow confines restricting even his breathing. The pain was indescribable, his mind replaying over and over the moment he had slipped so easily. After 5 hours of captivity, England surrendered and called for help. The cave rescue team arrived 2 hours later, finding him in critical condition, his skin pale and his body shaking. The rescuers set up a complex pulley system to extract him without causing further injury. Each pull was painfully slow, England gritting his teeth as the cold rock dug into his body. Finally, after an hour of effort, England emerged from the crack, bruised but alive. The experience taught him an unforgettable lesson. Sometimes what seems possible on the way down becomes a death trap on the way back up.